All right, so this is something that I wanted to talk about. Now, yesterday I spoke about how I don't want to allow this sort of shift to go under the rug because if the roles were flipped in terms of sides, we would literally never hear the end of this at any point in time whatsoever. It would just be a just constant, line of usage. Now, yesterday I spoke about how Ben Shapiro was being a coward and a hypocrite and a liar all in one because in his Q&A that he did, he basically said that, no lefties want to debate him and that's the reason why he only debates college students. Now, obviously that didn't make any logical sense because we're all aware that Kyle Kalinske offered to debate Ben Shapiro. So it's like, hold on a second there, buddy. Bucko, how is that possible? You're lying. And the craziest part about that was he was only there one of the 2 days and he didn't do a single debate. This man, the supposed debate god, right, didn't even do a debate at Politicon. The whole point of Politicon is debates. He did none of that. He stayed in his safe space and he just had, people do Q&As, and the second thing he did was a panel with his Daily Wire lackeys, and he just did the Q&A again. So it's pure insanity that this is going on, and that of course is that all we know came after Ann Coulter backing out, and we also got information that Tommy Lahren and Candace Owens both passed. Tommy Lahren, I think, just did a book signing, and then Candace Owens didn't even show up, just completely ghosted. So very weak stuff here. But in this one, I wanted to really go after and hammer Dave Coke sellout Rubin. Now, this goes a long way back, and I'm going to explain the whole story because this is a seemingly ever expanding sort of story that has been going on. So, first, we start out with Sam Seder, right? Dave Rubin constantly claiming, oh, lefties won't come on my show. And that was sort of in response to, hey, look at your show. There's a disproportionate amount of right wingers on there. Now, Sam Seder, in response to that, goes, hey, I'd like to be on your show, or you can come on my show. And he just completely, chickens out. He actually acknowledged it. What he said is basically Michael Brooks had made a video over on the channel where he called him stupid because that's what he is. And so Dave Rubin used that as an excuse to sort of get out of doing that. And it was really, really weak on his part, right? It's a massively cowardly move. You claim to be about the free exchange of ideas, the battle of ideas, yet you're not for either of those things. Let's be serious here. Let's keep it real. You're a massive fraud, right? So the list starts. This is where the list begins. The list began there, okay? The list of people who Dave Rubin was too much of a coward to actually have on his show or do a debate with started with Sam Seder, that he was the origins of that. Now, with Sam Seder specifically, he just exposed Stephen Clam Chowder because they were in talks with Politicon. He floated the idea of debating Steven Crowder because he has a YouTube following and he wanted to essentially get his message out there. And so Politicon responds with saying, oh, yeah, that sounds like a cool idea, because Steven Crowder is actually looking for debate. And so, everyone thinks, oh, cool. Well, it turns out Steven Crowder completely ghosted, just straight up full on ghosted. I think his dad told him not to do it. But he didn't go to Politicon. Apparently, he didn't even start answering. I don't even know if he answered. And from what Sam was saying, it sounded like Steven wasn't even answering Politicon. Like he just totally ghosted on 100%, which is insanity, right? But he also said there that, the first person that he gave as a option to debate was Dave. Competition will kick in. I agree with that. Rubin, right? That guy. He floated him, which would have been a great debate. So we know that he is just a total bitch. Dave bitch made Rubin, okay? Now, here's the thing, okay? The next person on the list, Anna Kasparian, okay? Obviously, I've gone into some pretty decent depth, or at least frequently talked about how Dave Rubin used to be on the Young Turks, and the Young Turks had broke their silence on Dave Rubin and just completely went in on him, and they decided to go in on him, and she basically exposed him for being a complete sellout. And she has since actually offered to go on his show. And she, made multiple videos about this, by the way. Just straight up going to town on this dude. And this guy won't have her on his show. He won't have her on his show. And it's because she's going to challenge him, and she's going to put him through the ringer. I mean, come on, seriously? Dave Rubin is the dumbest of the dumb. If you don't believe me, go watch Joe Rogan and Dave Rubin on building regulations. It's probably one of the most sobering things I've seen. It was really, really amazing, honestly. I recommend you watch that. But anyways, Anna Kasparian, open, request, hey, I want to come on your show to engage in the free exchange of ideas. She basically said, I want to promote the free exchange of ideas. Well, it kind of looks like you don't, Rubin. And that's a pretty damn big issue. Because you're essentially being a fraud. That's definitionally what you're being, actually. Forget pretty much, or essentially. You're being a fraud. You're being fraudulent. You're claiming to be all about the battle of ideas, the free exchange of ideas. Really, you don't care about any of that. Not at all. Not even in the slightest. And not only that, I tell you, okay? Not only that, but she also literally threw out the idea of debating him at Politicon. This was a sort of official proposal, by the way, because she sent out a tweet, and basically Politicon, they literally responded saying, we would like to set it up. Because she essentially said, who would like to see a debate between me and Dave Rubin? I believe it was something like that. And Politicon sent a gif of some kids like raising their hands in a classroom. So Politicon was down to do this. This was essentially as close to an official proposal as you can get. What did Dave Rubin respond with? Nothing. He ghosted. He ghosted because he's a coward. He's a coward. His name is Dave Bitchmade Rubin because he's a fucking coward. He doesn't actually want to have a free exchange of ideas because he's going to get reamed. Absolutely reamed is what's going to happen to Dave Rubin if that happens. And so the day that Anna Kasparian essentially did that, the list has started growing. The list has started growing. It's kind of crazy. Who do we have next? David Pakman. Okay. I've talked a lot about their interview that they had. It seemed that, so basically during that interview, what David Pakman did was he actually asked him serious questions and checked him pretty bad, and Dave Rubin did not seem very happy about that. So Dave Rubin got him in some pretty heavy-duty questions. I mean, he asked him things like, how can you claim to be classical liberal and simultaneously support single-payer healthcare? And he didn't really have an answer for that. And B, it actually managed to somehow get even worse because he actually went on to describe Obamacare when asked about his, basically he was trying to expand on what his ideal healthcare system would be. And what did he describe? He didn't describe single-payer healthcare. He described Obamacare. So he doesn't even know what single-payer healthcare is. This dude is a doofus, okay? He doesn't know anything. He is insanely vapid. He is a dumb fuck. He's a moron. He's an imbecile. He's a fucking, I don't know what other word to use, man. The perfect thing I remember was that Dave Rubin goes, I have huge capital cost for the studio, and David Pakman goes, wait, well, hold on there, Rube. Rube man, he says basically, wouldn't that be a further incentive if taxes are higher? Because those things are tax deductible. Capital costs are tax deductible if you have, some sort of a pass through like an LLC or whatever. So, and you know what his response was? His response was literally, that was legit his response, because he doesn't know what the words that were coming out of David Pakman's mouth were. He didn't know what that meant. What is a pass through? What is tax deductible? What the hell does that mean? You know what I mean? He doesn't know anything. The dude is a complete doofus. He's a complete moron. Okay, he's a complete moron. And the aftermath of that was David Pakman made a video about this. Well, to be fair, it was a caller who called in. But basically, a caller called in and said, hey, are you guys still friends? Which was a great question, because it turns out they weren't really friends. They never contacted each other after that. Which is insanity, man. This dude got checked, and so basically he just totally ghosted him. No longer friends with him. And then fast forward to now, right? That was a year ago. So actually now, sorry, that's like a year and a half ago almost. Now, David coming to LA for Politicon, the political convention event in Los Angeles. Where's Dave Rubin located? Los Angeles. Blair White reference as well in there, just to toss it in quickly. But anyways, David Pakman, I guess he went on Twitter and he said, oh, I thought you were in Europe with Jordan Peterson today, and that's why I couldn't be on your show. And it turns out to be the case that Dave Rubin is not really someone who wants him on his show. Okay, they've been trying really hard, supposedly, to schedule this for a long time. But Dave Rubin went to accusing David Pakman of being on a quest for clicks and essentially attempting to get attention, which is, it's sort of odd, because it's like, put yourself in the shoes of David Pakman, right? What sort of a motive is there to do that on Twitter? Like, okay, you get more favorites and retweets. So what? Like, that doesn't help really his channel, right? It doesn't make any difference in the grand scheme of things. Now, if he were to have made a YouTube video about it, then maybe there would be some understandable motive, but the tweet thing didn't do anything. But what I'm trying to get across here is the idea that Dave Rubin is actually down to have David Pakman on his show is absolutely laughable. It is unbelievably stupid, unbelievably naive, and just flat out false. 100% false. It's 100% false. So the list of people who are massively prominent progressives, right? Sam Seder, 400,000 subscribers, award-winning, Majority Report radio show. Anna Kasparian, co-host on the biggest online news show ever. And then you've got David Pakman's got like 537,000 subscribers. Like, come on, dude. These are massive, massive, massive people. Anna Kasparian's bigger than Dave Rubin, because she's a co-host on the biggest show, online show there is. So the point I'm trying to get across to you guys is Dave Rubin is a massive, massive coward. Not only is he a massive coward, but he's also a massive hypocrite, and a fraud, by the way. He claims that he's all about the free exchange of ideas, but that's not really what he's for. That's not what he's for. If he was for the free exchange of ideas, you know what the list of people who want to come on his show, who are prominent people who can't come on his show, would be? Zero. Nada. It would be none. It would be zero. There would be no people. But you're talking about three. Think about it this way, man. In the political sphere, especially in the progressive sphere, there aren't that many people. Okay, you got, Kyle, David, Sam, Anna, Jenk. All right, that's pretty much it. You've got the other people too, like, Mike and stuff like that. But the point being that, the really, really big ones who go and debate and do stuff like that, there aren't that many. It's like maybe like a sample size like 10 people. So you're talking about out of 10, there's 3 people who are down to come, and you're not letting them on, while simultaneously claiming to be for the free exchange of ideas. All this dude does is bring on conservatives onto his show, allows them to go on a monologue. In fact, the most he's ever checked anybody in the history of his show, ironically, was when he had David Frum on. And David Frum is a never Trumper, and he's a Trump critique. Critique. He's a Trump critic, and so he kept like interrupting him and trying to question him about stuff. That was the only time he's questioned him. So conclusion: Dave Rubin is a massive coward, a hypocrite, and a fraud.